G'day and welcome back to another episode of the Keeper League podcast. We're the AFL Fantasy podcast that doesn't talk about the superstars. We only talk about the lesser knowns and the players who are going to bring value to your draft and Keeper League teams. My name's Heff, and this week welcoming back to the show is, I guess, the co-founder of the podcast. Welcome back, Kaes. How you going, mate?
Good, mate. I'd like to think of myself as a spiritual leader.
Spiritual leader? Of the community, really?
Not of the community, of the podcast.
Oh, okay. Not even of our listeners out there. I think some of them out there do see you as that kind of spiritual leader.
I'm surprised anyone remembers me.
No, mate, they couldn't forgive you. Like with all the Ben Kaes stuff and all that sort of stuff. You're the
I did make Ben Kaes.
You're the pioneer. So
I basically got him into the vice captaincy role.
No, there might be a few new listeners out there that haven't heard you too much. I think you've only been on 2 podcasts this year so far, and they're all on the pre-season. So,
as you always say, quality over quantity.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Let's go with that. Definitely not just taking whoever I can get to free themselves up and come on the show each week. But you've been working on another podcast for the last 3 months or so.
I have.
Let's give it a plug.
I've been in studio Heff a lot, actually.
We've been doing a lot of work together.
Yes. Yes, front runner. It's just a little bit of a break, but if you are interested in South Australian racing, that is my job. So we like to talk all things racing, get a few guests on each week, chew the fat, and hopefully find you a few winners. So if that's something that tickles your fancy, check out Front Runner.
Especially in South Australia, like I've been forced to listen to it, I guess, each week.
Yes, as our producer.
But I've actually I found like another side of horse racing that isn't like punting. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Just the stories behind it, the people behind it, how the industry all works. It's actually quite fascinating. To listen to about it. So that's my experience listening to it. And
that's what we try and share, some of the good news stories.
I think it's very niche South Australian content.
Well, this is a niche podcast. Yeah,
exactly.
So if you like other niche podcasts, well, then there's another one for you.
I'm just thinking more of our nationwide audience that might not resonate with.
Mate, you never know.
But if you do like
got to find a winner somewhere.
Yeah, if you do like a punt and that sort of stuff, each their own. Gamble responsibly. There is that avenue there for you to have a listen. Anyway, I had your Keeper League team go on the weekend. I saw. Do you want to explain the bit of debacle that happened in our league?
This is really rough, and this probably sums up my season at 2-8 or 9 or whatever it is. Effectively, like as we all know, I like to trade, and someone in our league had Nank, and they didn't have cover, and I had Samson Ryan, and then he was like, "Does anyone want a ruckman?" Well, I thought, well, you can have Samson Ryan. I don't need him. I've got Max Gawn. I've got Luke Jackson. I'm fine in that area. I might try and nab a potential up and coming youngster off this bloke, and we decided it would be Samson Ryan for Neil Erasmus, and whatever, fine. Both, not really setting the world on fire, but so be it. Just I'm a good bloke. Trade out a player, and we put this through basically at 7:10 SA time on. 7 o'clock SA time on Friday, just before trade deadline finished. Obviously, 10 minutes before the start of the game, and that's when our teams lock. Put the trade through, and old mate commissioner to my left here, I don't know what he was doing, having a...
I was at soccer training.
I'm sure. You're probably having a nice, hot
Wednesday, Friday, Sundays
or,
on.
Got the cucumbers over the eyes. I'm not sure what you do. But
the footy's on.
Didn't allow the transfer to happen. So we quickly said, look, Heff, what are you doing? Hurry up. He said, put Samson around my field because I've got a donut. And I said, look, I want to get rid of Darcy Jones and I want to put Neil Erasmus on if that's all cool. No worries. Sweet. Whatever.
Couldn't do it because the lineups were locked.
Yep.
And the team movement were locked, so we could only do it on Monday. Mm-hmm. So you ended up with Jones on field.
Yep.
The other guy ended up with a donut in the ruck.
Yep.
But what happened in your team? So you had Darcy Jones on field.
So Darcy Jones he was on my field. So how it looked. So he scored like 79. I'm pretty sure it was. It was a good score, which is annoying because there's a few other guys who didn't score that well.
You end up winning your game as a result.
And it came down to the wire. We had a few players in the last game. Mitch Owens went off his absolute tits. He scored 109. Basically, if you looked at the platform, I won by 12 points or something like that. Yep. But
after the score adjustment that was coming on Monday,
I had to swap out Darcy Jones' 79 for Neil Erasmus' 55. I think I lost by 10 points or something. So what could have been a fairy tale and just a way that the Mighty Chops were going to claw their way back up the table, it's just ended up being an absolute catastrophe. And I'm equal bottom, so we're going well.
Big plug to the Keeper platform, though, for having that edit score function and making it really easy and all that sort of stuff.
I wish Ryan didn't have that function.
Well, it would have made life better for you. But yeah, I reckon I had my first... I had my worst, week in
You got
Keeper League
smacked.
this week. Well, I had 2 late outs.
Now, this is a thing. Like, if Heff always bags my team, and he bagged it from day one.
It is terrible.
I was the 4th highest score this week, 1655.
What is
I
your-
would have beaten Heff by 200 and something points this week.
And what's your average over the season?
My last 3 or 4 weeks have been exceptional. I've been pushing. I'm getting some guys back injured. Callum Mills is starting to get fit. Big Filippo's getting fit. You know, we're getting there.
What's
The
my
shop's gonna be good.
What's my saying? One swallow doesn't make a summer or something.
While you
one sparrow.
while you
is that
talk
the
about
thing?
how shit your team is, I'm going to
One
say how many
Andrew.
times I would have beaten you this year.
One
Let's
David.
go.
Anyway, let's get into the round review. Let's start with the Thursday night game. Geelong versus Western Bulldogs. Looking at a few more established players here that are a bit older and might have value in keep leagues. Tom Stewart. Did he return this week or last week? I can't actually remember.
Last week, I think.
Yeah, okay. Scored 92 points, so he should put up a good score this week.
This week. It was this week.
It was this week.
Yeah.
What would you be doing as an owner, though? Like, would you be holding him, trading him? Like, let's just use that case in point. Our league, the guy who owns him is sitting mid-table. Probably might scrape into 6th spot into the finals, might not.
Yeah.
What would you be doing with him right now?
Well, I think in that situation, you still a chance to make finals, and we know anything can happen once you kind of get to that point in the season.
Yeah.
Tom Stewart's proven scorer. I'd if you were like my team where you're bottom, yes, he's definitely trade bait, but I think if you're still around the mark, even like when I've been trying to look at picking off some trades, stuff like that with some of the people, not in this league, but other leagues, it's like those kind of players, they're just almost out of bounds in a way because people know that they've got a bit of value either for later in the season from a trade point of view or that they're a player that can pop. So I think for me, I'd be holding Tom Stewart unless your team's absolutely cactus.
In one of my leagues, we've got our trade deadline this week because it's like the mid-season, at the end of this round because it's the middle of the season. Would he be someone you'd be chasing if you were contending, or is it too risky, do you think?
Definitely. No, because he's still one of the better players in their team. Like they're
More
not
like injuries and stuff like that.
Yeah,
It seems to
like-
always be in and out.
But I think if you're talking about a bloke who can get you 120 or something come finals time, he's the guy that can do it.
Yeah.
Like, yes, his probably floor hasn't been as high this year and his consistency hasn't been as good, but
Yeah.
he's still got a massive ceiling.
See, I'd rather someone like him on my field than Joel Frazier. You know, as much as I love Frazier for the future, it's not where my team's at. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Frazier's been a bit yo-yo of late too.
Yeah, exactly. Onto the Mark O'Connor, the mock. 85 points for him. Back-to-back good scores. He's taken a lot of marks in defence lately. I'm not sure if it's a different role because he does play tags as well, but Oisin Mullen's been that guy. That's like they swapped the Irishman. Maybe it's something to do with Irishman and tags. Connor Nash is probably a pretty decent tagger as well.
Yes, true.
Maybe it's something to do with the Irish.
Finn McGuinness sounds Irish.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just not sure, or if it's a bit of a hot spell. I'm back in a bit of a hot spell. Not someone I'd probably chase after.
Not for me.
Yeah.
No.
And then Sam Davidson had a good game. His
Yeah.
performances are few and far between. It's just role-based on that wing. Not much he
He's
can
been
do.
going good.
Yeah, no, he's been good for his first season. There's what was he, a doctor? Gave up his medical.
Really?
Yeah, like he gave up his...
He was studying.
He was studying to be a doctor, but it was something like he had to do his placement this year or whatever, otherwise you have to restart everything, and he chose not to do it and became an AFL footballer, and I don't know, you probably make enough. If it goes well, he'll probably make enough to go back and do it
Dr.
again.
Davidson.
So that's why they call him Dr. Davidson. Anyway, let's go on to the Essendon versus Richmond. I think 2 metre Peter is too good for the podcast. What
He's
are your
been
thoughts?
too good for the podcast since week 1 he came back.
No, he's been he was a bit yo-yo-y as well, but I think he's averaging 90.5 now. But there's just it's like massive score and then slightly under 2G kind of score. But yeah, I think, and now that he's averaging 90.5 over, 5 or 6 games now? It has to be.
So my concern is, obviously, Essendon's draw gets a bit tougher, but also we're looking at recruiting a ruckman this week, I think, too. So, 2 metre Peter's been playing the second ruck to an ageing Todd Goldstein, so he has been in a few more CBAs, and I think he probably would have been had a Draper or Brian be around. So it'd just be interesting to see if they do bring someone in, do they kind of play 2 rucks plus Peter, right, or what? So that might be the only thing that he might drop a few CBAs.
That's a good point, because usually you'd be like, no, it's fine with Goldstein or whoever that new ruck is coming in at number 1, and then him playing backup. But because Essendon have been playing 2 rucks basically for the last 2 years,
And we're really thin up forward. We've got no height in our team.
Feels like you like that structure. So
I think it just gives us a bit of flexibility of someone we can bomb on their head, as opposed to kicking it onto top of Guelphy or someone like that. So I think it wouldn't surprise me, say it's a Braden Crossley that they end up playing Crossley, Goldstein, and Wright. So that could affect the points from here on in.
And as a Port Adelaide supporter, I can advocate for the bombing on head strategy. not.
How good's your season going?
Oh, I've got some comments later on, don't you worry. Angus Clark, 98 points. He had the 3 goals playing up forward. He's listed as a defender, though, on the champion data stats.
Defender. That's where he kind of cut his teeth last year. They were kind of talking that he was playing on the wing on the weekend, and sometimes it's hard to see who's on the wing on the footy. But like,
I didn't look at CBS closely.
If he was playing on the wing, he was pushing bloody deep because he kicked a lot of those goals close to the...
I thought it was a half forward role, but I didn't actually look at the wing attendance, so I should get more of an eye on that.
You should have. This is your job. I'll see. What's the heat map?
Well, I did miss the first bit of the game because I was at soccer training still. That's why I didn't approve
You were in a fucking bath, mate.
Anyway, do you reckon it's a tip of the cap, or do you reckon there's something here with him?
I think like he's a guy. If you're like your waivers are open or whatever, like you'd be putting in a request to kind of get him.
He was the most requested pick on keeper this week.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me because I think like it's the Bombers have injury issues, and like it was probably this time last year, a bit later, that like Archie Roberts kind of came on and hit some really good scores, and he's been a really good consistent scorer in his second year of footy. So like I think Clark's always been pretty highly hyped. Fair bit of wing actually. Wing half forward. So according to the heat map, but no, I definitely put a waiver request in for him just because I think he's got a bit of talent. So whether it's, will he score 98 points each week for the rest of the season? God, no.
Yeah.
But I think there looks to be a bit of quality there.
Onto the Tigers. Sam Banks, I think he's qualified for Too Good for the Podcast. Good. 110 points there. Shifted to halfback a few weeks ago.
Defender status today too.
Finally got it. Because over the first 6 he was still on that wing, and I think it's been the last 4 or 5 he's moved to halfback. So
it's been really good.
The only thing is, like over the last few weeks, he's had Melbourne, who are easy for halfbackers. He's had West Coast, a tough game in Hawthorn. Then I reckon they've had Essendon, who are easy. There's been some really easy matches that he's kind of flourished in. So I'm a little worried that there might be a bit of a false economy here. For a few weeks, that is. But I think long term, I think he's a good player.
I think I'm all in. I think I tweeted the other week that I think if there was 3 guys in the comp that I want a piece of right now, Sam Banks is one of them.
Yeah, you also had Bailey Humphrey in there, who was a reach pre-season. He was stunk it up yesterday, though.
He did stink it up yesterday, but the week before his CBA role was exceptional.
And he did dip. Took Miller, came back.
But Banks, if we want to look back to a few years ago when we had a guy on this podcast, he went to the dark side, very much the very, very dark side. In Dossie, he always talked about thirst or hunger. Sam Banks has it.
Yeah.
Like you watch him go back and watch some of the highlights from Friday night. He is screaming for the ball. He's trying to get that cheap handball off the ruckman. I don't know if he's necessarily the distributor, but he wants to be that. And, I love it. So he's got that thirst.
I think as well, when you think, like, you've probably got Vlosten, who's probably got another year left in him.
Yeah.
Like, if that sort of thing. Like
Short's having his injury issues.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Like, I think he's probably the next guy. That's another thing. It does kind of coincide with it as well.
You've lost Rioli. Yeah. You've lost Baker. Like, he's the one. He's been highly touted, I'm pretty sure, within the club.
Kane McAuliffe, next guy on my list. If you go back to the draftee analysis guide and my rankings a few years ago, he was in my top 5 from his draft year.
Yep.
94 points, back-to-back good scores. I think the effort in the twos, he was putting up big numbers in the twos. Finally, this game, I was a bit worried, because I feel like he's like a very inside player, and then Taranto's pretty inside, got a little bit of outside game. Hopper's pretty inside. Yep. So I was thinking like they might get in his way a little bit, but he seems to be kind of prevailing regardless. So. Yeah. I'm a big fan at the moment, and
big fan, and his pipes are pretty big too.
Yeah, he does have big pipes. Yeah. Let's move on to the next game, Carlton versus GWS. So my family decided to head up the river for a lunch on Saturday, and I had the choice of going or staying home, and naturally I stayed home and watched all the footy I could. But it just sucked that I had this game to watch.
You're a fun guy, aren't you?
Yeah, no, exactly. I don't really want to drive 2 hours, 4 hours in a weekend.
I don't like the river. I could buy into that. The river sucks, but
yeah, especially when it's wet and cold and stuff as well. So no, I just stayed. Sam Docherty, though, he started in defence, which was great to see. He ended up on a wing when Akers got subbed out, but it wasn't too bad. But scored 112 points. The thing about him, he looked like very slow at times, like he couldn't get to a contest every now and then, or like he was useful in that kind of chip around or just like being the outlet kind of kick.
Yep.
But I think when it comes to impacting the game, he still battled a little bit.
Yep.
I don't know. Can you trust him to be best 22 from here? Like, it's his last season. Well, they're not going to make finals.
No,
play him out.
I would have thought if he was really Sam Doherty shouldn't be being dropped from the Carlton side. Like, if he is good. Like, unfortunately, I just think injuries have probably caught up with him with, a couple of ACLs and all of that kind of thing. So, yeah, I think you just kind of take the good with the bad. Like, I think if he's listed, you just play him each week and you might get a 60, you might get 110. But I think you just got to take the good with the bad this year.
Yeah, no, I agree. And just hope he doesn't get dropped, I guess. But when he does play, he should score okay. I think if he sits on that half-back line, he should be fine. I'd also be backing him for retirement game, round 24.
Ooh, Heff's going to put in a few
maybe.
requests.
Maybe. I do need one more defender, and then I'm
going to make the
happy with my team.
Your team's just...
My team?
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty comfortable in there at the moment. Let's move on to Cooper Lord. 87 points. Another player I think can be good in time. He was on the wing in this game. I'm just not sure if that's his best spot, but it might be. And if that is, it's probably not great for fantasy. But
stash him up. Yeah,
I reckon he's a stash. Xavier Halloran's probably a tip of the cap. He had 93 points, playing a mid-forward role. Another thing that's just interesting in this game, he's too good for the podcast, but Whitfield played forward for a fair chunk of this game, and he scored poorly as a result. So
he had a lot of handballs though, which is very unlucky. Whitfield, like, he had a shit ton of touches, but his split was incredibly poor. That was probably the reason for his bad score.
Maybe
he's not getting junk off the back flank, but
probably would have turned up if he kicked it more. Is that what you're saying?
He had 19 handballs.
Jeez, that's a lot.
The
of
most
handballs
on the ground. He had 27 touches. So when was the last time Lockie Whitfield would have had double the amount of handballs than kicks? Never.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Probably
so yes, obviously the role is a little concerning, but don't worry too much, I don't think.
Onto the Hawthorn-Brisbane game. Harry Morrison had 101 points, one of your boys from Season 1 of the Keeper League podcast. Tip of the cap.
Finally coming good.
One of the only players I think who can hold his head high in that performance on the weekend. They were so bad, Hawthorn. Like, skills, execution, it's the worst I've ever seen them play. I don't know, in the last few years.
I think Brisbane were pretty upset they lost the week before to
true.
Melbourne.
Probably put the foot down a bit. Josh Weddle had 88 points. I feel like he's just one of those players we talk about every second week. He can do it all, just needs to be more consistent. I think we don't really need to discuss, we just need to wait for him to be more consistent. And maybe I won't talk about him again until he is. Tip of the cap to Calamachi, 4 goals, 112 points. The one I do want to discuss is Charlie Cameron. So he's 81 points. He's had back-to-back good games. Would you feel comfortable fielding him at F5 given the quality of forwards this year and all that sort of stuff?
To go on 81, 50, 44, 77, 60, 52, 65. He's 17% owned on keeper. So he's around on a lot of waiver wires.
Yeah.
I think if you can stream him, they've got a Thursday night game against Essendon this week. This is a perfect time to grab him off the waivers and, put him on your bench for a streamer option, I think. I think maybe for that F5 role this year, it's going to be more beneficial to play the stream if you can.
Yeah, true that. It's hard to stream when we only have a lockout, or hard to loop
whatever you want to say.
Anyway, on to North Melbourne versus Collingwood game. I reckon I'll watch more of this than the Port game just because I had Cherry captain and I was very frustrated.
And North Melbourne put on a fight for the first bit.
3 quarters, it wasn't too bad. Onto the North side of things, Dylan Stevens had 110 points. There's a guy in our group chat who just started talking him up randomly this week. I don't know what the go was because he's my best. I picked him up in the preseason. He's my best midfielder. It's hasn't scored that well until this week. Really, he's had a few okay games. But in this game, he scored 110 points. 50, I think it was 55% disposal efficiency and led the game for Clangers. There was one instance where all he had to do was move the ball forward. And he somehow tried to kick it across the field and it ended up just in a Collingwood player's hands. They went back and scored a goal. So it's can you trust someone like him? Not at all.
If a guy averaging 68 is your best midfielder this year.
I don't know what he was talking about. Yeah. Oh, he was a lot of sub earlier on in the season. And he's just, I think since they dropped Bailey Scott, he's been kind of consistently in the side.
He was a pick 5, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
in
he
AFL
was.
draft. So was his second club after coming from Sydney. But look, he's probably got a bit of pedigree to a degree there, but am I trusting him week in, week out? No.
Absolutely not. The one I do like is Riley Hardiman, 106 points. We talked about him in round A, and I'm pretty sure we're the only podcast we've ever talked about him before in depth. Anyway.
Ever.
He's just one of those players I think is just showing signs of being a good fantasy player at some stage in the future. It's just hard to kind of do now consistently with Cheezel kind of constantly floating back in, back out there. Caleb Daniel in there. Plus they're North Melbourne. They don't own a lot of the possession a lot. But I think there's just something here in a few years that he might be a stash option. Do you agree?
Totally agree. I'm keen on him. So in another keeper league, after his first or second game, once he finally got in there, I grabbed him off the waiver wire, and I'm pretty stoked about that because there was something in the preseason, like all the clubs did, who's going to be your club's breakout contender. And I reckon, is it Dry Simpkin who's the captain of North, said Hardiman?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's positive because there's always been a bit of, I think, hype as a kid maybe that he's got a bit of fantasy games. So, got the hype, got the tick of approval from the captain, and now actually got a bit of a role. So I reckon if he's around on a waiver wire, he's definitely worth a pickup because I reckon he's got a bit of ability.
Might be a little mid-season. We have a mid-season draft next
He's
week.
not there.
Oh, he's
20%.
No, our league's that good.
G owns him.
Jeez, took him in the draft too. Yeah, no waivers in our league.
But only 20% owned, so he might be one to look at this week, slowly putting together some good scores.
Yeah, definitely. On to the Collingwood side of things. Ned Long, is he
Nedwood.
Is he the GOAT, Kaes?
He's my goat after picking him up in the first little pickup waiver. Yeah, we had.
Yeah.
He's probably my second best player behind Maxi Gawn.
14 tackles is huge in this game. Like, I don't think he's a ceiling player. Like, I don't think he's going to be a big 110 type, but he's going to be a really consistent, 90 plus midfielder for you.
I'm feeling he's like an Ollie Wines.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Operator.
Yeah.
Just never going to put the captaincy on him.
Yeah.
But you're never going to drop him, and he's never going to let you down.
He's going to get 80 plus each week pretty easily. On to Isaac Quainer, probably tip of the cap. Played on Curtis, who they target a lot. So he kind of just got in on a few intercept marks in front of him and stuff like that. Probably got the better of Curtis in this game as well. Jamie Elliott's on a hot streak as a streamer because they're playing well. Collingwood play the kind of small forward game plan really, really well. It's like it's the way that they kind of won the flag as well. Like, they don't have good key position players really across their team, but because their style of play isn't suited to key forwards, he's one that can actually get in on it. And actually, across the board, the good teams don't rely on key forwards anymore. They rely on smalls, and the bad teams are the ones still trying to, like Carlton, for example. So you kind of have a look at some of these kind of guys. And then Ed Allen had 94 points, probably the best game I've seen him play, but there's the North factor there as well. So, and then a lot of midfielders missing for Collingwood too. That's the same for Ned Long as well. It's probably why he popped so much with Side Bottom and Pendlebury out, but there'll be a time very soon where those guys don't play each week, and they'll benefit from those guys. Onto the Fremantle versus Port Adelaide game, onto a few trends, stats, data. You love that sort of stuff, analysis.
Trends. Heff still hates Ken. That's still trending.
Oh, definitely. But
do you hate Josh Carr yet too?
Not yet. Getting closer. No, we haven't really. I don't know. I don't know who to blame right now. I'm pretty sure it's still Ken's fault.
Most of Australia's hoping it's Josh's fault, so it's just prolonged.
The thing is, I'm not even pro Josh Carr. I'm pro analysing, advertising, having a look at every coach in the country. That's what I was pro. But we've got David Koch, who just makes the easy decision every time and doesn't like doing anything hard. Sorry, this is going to be a very long-winded segment.
I think there's 15 players to talk about. They're all Port players. So if you need to go make yourself a cup of tea or put a slow cooker on.
This joke's back, is it? Slow cooker on and watch it. Port ruck trend continues. That's the trend I'm talking about. So we backed Luke Jackson last week on the podcast to score big. Pretty much over the last 5 weeks, every ruckman against Port Adelaide has gone 100 plus.
So who is this week's lucky ruckman?
I hope I don't embarrass him by mentioning this, but I put out a video last week with that kind of clipped up about Porter, an easy matchup for rucks, and Jordan Sweet actually messaged and said, I used to be the ruck Ryan Crowley for the first 5 weeks or something like that. So I hope he doesn't mind me mentioning that, but I thought that was pretty funny. Porter playing the bye this week. Who rucks for them? They're going to ton up.
I don't know.
Anyway.
Great time to watch that video again, though. Yeah. Port losing to the bye.
Classic joke, yeah.
Look that up on YouTube if you don't know what that is.
Matthew Johnson is the first Fremantle player I want to discuss. 97 points. He's kind of had an uptick since Young has been injured. Sarong and Brayshaw were pretty well held, though, so I think he just kind of naturally gets on a few extra ones there.
He's a solid player.
Yeah,
definitely. I don't know if he's a ceiling guy, but he's definitely solid.
Here's the rant incoming. Murphy Reid had 94 points. Now, I'm so glad that Port Adelaide traded up to get Berry ahead of this guy. The same Berry.
Joe Berry.
Same Joe Berry who scored 0 goals, 0 in the sample on the weekend, while this guy's kicking 4 at the top level. So great list management decision there. Hats off to the recruiting team at Port Adelaide. Up there with trading out our 2025 first rounder to get Luco and Joe Richards, while that's looking like it's going to be a top 5 pick.
Is Joe Richards playing for you?
Yeah, he is.
Lukosius is unlucky. He hurt himself.
Yeah, I know, but I still don't think he's worth giving up a top 5 pick
He was
this
the number
year.
1 draft pick.
I don't care. He wasn't getting a game at Gold Coast.
You love getting number 1 draft picks in.
He wasn't number 1
Jack
anyway.
Watts?
He was number 2 or 3, wasn't he?
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah, it was Walsh, Lukosius, and Rankin. Anyway, yeah, I'm sure heads will roll over that decision, though, like they always have at Port Adelaide over all the bad decisions we make. It's definitely not a boys' club that faces
Port
no
Accountability
repercussions.
Football Club.
Yeah, absolutely none there at Port Adelaide for the last probably 10 years. But anyway,
What's
tip
your
of the
boy
cap.
Warren doing about this?
Oh, probably just too busy posting conspiracy theories and right-wing propaganda on Instagram. I think that's the issue. I can't believe I voted for that guy to be on the board. What a nutcase. Anyway, tip of the cap for Murphy Reid right now, but definite stash option. Will be a star of the future, especially when he kind of moves into his natural midfield role. I think he played as a junior. Yeah. Anyways, Heath Chapman, 94 points. Port just didn't really have a matchup for him. I think he just racked it up early. He's a player that we need to be more inconsistent. Got a question for you now, though. Luke Ryan, 87 points. I don't think he has the ceiling he used to, but is he someone you'd be chasing if you're contending? And on the flip side, the guy's going to win the Wooden Spoon in our league, owns him. Should he be trading him to get some value?
Luke Ryan's 29.
Yeah. Like his scoring is trending downwards as well.
2 tons.
Yeah.
A lot of those kind of 70, 80s at the moment.
Yeah. Should he be moving him on if he's at bottom of the ladder?
I think you'd still want a decent return for him. I don't think you're giving him away for, a packet of chips.
Yeah.
I don't know what he'd be worth, though. That would be the thing.
Yeah.
But you'd entertain it.
Yeah. Would you
Sure.
trade him for a Joel Frazier?
No, I would not trade
Well,
him
he's
for
under
Joel
50
Frazier.
in our league. Baby Bont, they call him. Will be the next superstar.
Okay.
Foss, if you want Joel Frazier, come at me.
Remember when Jaden Stevenson was the next Nat Fife?
But that was by Tom, not by a guy in our league, not by the actual competition, like by commentators. And then Corey Wagner is back in that tagging. He was on butters for a lot of this game. 84 points. Gets the legs to the ball when he's a tagger, so that can help there. On to Port. The Rat, my favourite Port player. The only one I don't hate. He hasn't done enough for me to hate him yet.
The Rat.
89 points. I think it's as simple as this. Like, when he plays, he scores. He's a fantasy-friendly player. He's just got that kind of aerobic ability to just kind of keep running into holes.
Machine.
And, get into there. He's a terrible footballer in terms of skills. But great fantasy player. So he's worth picking up off the waiver wire. I've got Miles Bergerman written here. I think it's meant to be Bergman.
You hungry?
Maybe. 88 points. He's playing everywhere at the moment. He was like mid-forward to start with. Then he went back in defence. I think Port's season is gone, and Port will showcase this guy, I think, because he's on the outer.
To get some trade value.
Yeah, I think they'll play midfield for the rest of the year. That mid kind of...
It probably helps you, though. He's a good player.
Yeah, I think so too, especially with Horn Francis out at the moment. He's probably the next guy to kind of step in there. And kind of on that, it does lead to like a few holes opening up in defence. And the next guy, Logan Evans, he had 86 points. I think it's a flow on from Farrell being injured, Bergman going into the mids. I think he's the guy that'll come in and just score okay for the rest of the season. Like, we'll aim at developing players from now instead of trying to win, I think. And he's probably one to be developed on that half-back line. So I think he just holds his spot for a bit because he's a bit of a yo-yo in and out recently. So if you own Logan Evans, he's probably worth fielding for the next few weeks, I think, as well.
I got a question for you, Heff.
Let's go.
You talk about the Port Rucks.
Yes.
Right, so our little ad drop's coming up, and Dante Vicentini's on the waiver wire.
Yes, I've noticed that.
What is the lay of the land between your boy Sweetie and Dante? Like, is Jordan going to play again this year? Is it Dante's job to lose?
Yeah, I think Jordan Sweet went big in the sample this week. It was like the first time since he's been dropped that he's done it. I think they dropped Sweetie after the Tim English game where Tim English just destroyed him around the ground. Still won the ruck kind of battle, but around the ground, like work rate wasn't there, that sort of stuff. And I think Porter basically said, like, you need to earn yourself, your spot back.
Sure.
And he hadn't kind of done it yet. And I think with Vicentini's also been getting destroyed in the ones as well. Probably a little bit better around the ground, but probably not as good in the ruck contest themselves.
He's averaging like 30-something hit-outs a game.
Is he? Yeah, okay. But he's still Rob the week before, like, destroyed him. Luke Jackson was best on ground on the weekend. Like, they're probably still getting the better of him. I'm not saying it'll be any different with Jordan Sweet in there, but I don't think if you draft him, Vicentini, I wouldn't be shocked if you have a perma zero for the rest of the season in 2 or 3 weeks. That's what I'm saying. So
No, just wondering.
Yeah. I do like him. And I do think he does have some potential
What about
for the
next
future.
year?
Potentially.
Who goes into 2026
Yeah.
as the number one ruckman?
I don't know. I reckon they're so even, Sweet and Vicentini. That's the thing. Like, I reckon they're very even, and we won't play two of them. So you're going to flip-flop between them. He's gone, I think. There's no chance of him. He's not doing anything in the twos either. So, yeah. Let's move on to the Adelaide versus West Coast game. I slept through a lot of this game. Didn't have a good sleep Saturday night. But anyway, Sam Berry, 123
too
points.
rested from Friday night in your hot tub.
Yeah, that's it. No, well, this is probably the game I was doing it for. 123 points. Sam Berry is a tackling machine. Has had that massive season. I think it was 3 years ago, averaging. Wasn't it huge, like tackles per game?
Yes.
And there was like games where he had like 17 and broke records and stuff. He's looked great. The thing is with him, like, I just don't think he's a long-term play in a draft or keeper league. He's looked too good as the sub, like coming on, adding that extra like tenacity. Like,
So Sunday was his first non-sub game.
yeah. And that's because like Tex was subbed out, late changes, all that sort of stuff. They brought in Draper to be the sub for this game. But I think Berry is better at that role. But I think also with someone like Berry, you've got to give him a game every now and then because you can't be subbed the whole time and not play twos and that sort of stuff as well.
Sydney this week. So that's a good enough test for, see if he's got the chops.
But you've also got Crouch back in a few weeks. Like, I don't think Crows are dropping him just yet. So, yeah, I just don't like it long term, but you might get a few good weeks out of him, that's all. Wayne Miller is the next one, 89 points. Do you think these like 80 to 90 point games are his ceiling? Mm-hmm. Yeah, like he's not going to go bigger than that.
No.
But is he going to be consistently scoring that ever? Or is it going to be too up and down?
He's never going to get those junk touches that some other halfbackers do. Like, that's his second best score for the year.
Yeah.
Consistency, no. I think he's more of a low 70s average kind of operator as opposed to a mid 80s.
And I think his best is like an 80 to 90. It's not going to be like a 120 here and there type
and he's
thing.
still, what is he, 27, so it's not like there's going to be a massive...
Yeah.
He's still got Hinge.
Yeah.
You got Laird back there now. Like, I just think there's enough users to kind of chew up some of his possessions in a half-back wing way.
And what is he, 27, 28 now?
Yeah, 27.
Yeah, no, it's over, I think, for people who have wanted him to be a fantasy star. West Coast, just don't go near him.
75.
75 was their highest score, so there's just not enough points going around. There's so many teasers. Like, I got Brady Hoff, who's like, defender, moved into the midfielder.
He kicked the first goal of the game.
Was on like 20-something quarter time. Like, here we go, he'll get a decent 80 for me. Like,
he cost you the game.
Doesn't score.
Smacked.
Yeah, doesn't score. Cost me the game. I actually could have won my game.
Jack Graham.
Who cost my game was Pendles and Tex Walker being a late out. 2 late outs.
Stop blaming people.
And also Tristan.
I still would have beaten you by 200 points.
Tristan Cherry over Dawson cost me the game, actually. Let's go Melbourne versus Sydney. That's also stupid in hindsight as well because they played West Coast. It's just that like the gun midfielders have been battling against West Coast the last few weeks. That's all because they put time into them. Caleb Windsor in the Melbourne-Sydney game, 85 points. If he's not too good for the podcast yet, he should be, right?
He's a star. Like, I love watching him play footy.
Yeah.
Like, whether it's half-back wing or whatever. I don't know whether he's going to be like a massive scorer. I'm not sure on that just yet, but
good user.
Yeah, and he's quality. So I would say I'd 2G for PM.
I think so. The halfback role was what we were hoping for in the preseason. He's finally got it. He's putting up a few 80-plus scores. I reckon everyone's going to own him. Like, so there's no point talking about him anymore. Judd McVie, my other reach, 83 points. It was a pretty cruisy game.
Nice that you're finally admitting this.
No, they're not. This is the joke. They're not reaches. They're doing well. I think he's avraging the 70s now.
Congratulations.
Yeah, he's a good bench player. Pretty cruisy game for halfbacks. And the other thing as well, Bowie got tagged in this game. So I think like all the others kind of benefit when Bowie gets taken out of the game a bit more. So maybe monitor Sydney versus defenders as well to see if like the actual uptick is there. Melbourne are a fantasy friendly team for defenders. They chip around a lot. They're a bit slow with the way they move the ball. So yeah, could be good for fantasy as well. And it's working for them because they're winning. And Brisbane are kind of the same actually when they come out of defence. They don't really go long. They kind of go really short and kind of move it down gradually. So can be good for some fantasy scoring there. Sydney side of things, Angus Sheldrick had 86 points. He's on the bubble for Too Good for the Podcast. And I think with Mills getting rubbed out it's probably going to be 3 weeks, I reckon, if they do the grading.
Don't get me started on this
left
garbage.
the ground, he concussed, all that sort of stuff.
The other one is worse. Alex Pearce getting rubbed out is worse.
Anyway, so I think he kind of remains in the midfield. Probably will get the Too Good for the Podcast as well. Callum Mills' role back on the side was pretty interesting. So he only had the 5 centre bounce attendances. his heat map looks so defensive, but he was starting forward for some of the game as well. So he kind of just roamed. But yeah, like he'll miss a few weeks, so maybe.
But for his first game of the year, I've got zero concerns about.
No, neither. He's scoring 65 points and you're barely getting any midfield time.
Yeah.
Like that's fine.
64% tog.
Yeah, there you go.
Whatever.
And then on to the St Kilda versus Gold Coast game, last game of
You're going to talk
the
about
round.
more players than actually crowd that attended this game.
Yeah, what was it 13,000 last full time? Losing to West Coast, so I think I don't know. I like punishing your team by not showing up. I think that's fine. They deserve it sometimes.
You're a great supporter.
I'm just over it. Like, especially if they've continually let you down for years and years and years. Like, I think, like,
It must be
especially
horrible playing finals most years.
especially at Port because
Winning finals.
yeah, not winning finals. We've won like one in 10 years. Especially at Port. That's a lie. We've won more than that. But in terms of anything else. Yeah, our average losing margin though has been huge in finals. What was I trying to say? Especially at Port, where you've kind of like had, and St Kilda as well, where you've had years and years and years of like not listening. The only thing like at Port is like that keeps us going is David Koch, I know, just looks at the crowd numbers and go, let's not change anything because we're making money here, you know? And sometimes you need to kind of vote with your feet and
I think you
move
should
on.
go apply for the board.
Well, that's an option. I've thought about it.
Why not? You got plenty of spare time.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
Just down the road.
Next year's the next election, so
I think you should. You at least get Louis' vote.
I don't think you actually have to turn up to board meetings these days. I think they're all done from home. So, yeah, could be there. Could challenge Warren Treadway. I'll have to post some more Cooker conspiracy theories to get him up there.
I'd sign up as a member if you were going to be on the
so
board.
you can vote. Thanks. I appreciate that. Let's get into the players. Hunter Clark came back in this week, scored 93 points. He was out injured. I can't remember what the injury was specifically, but played VFL for the last 2 weeks. Had 12 CBAs. Is he filling the Jack McRae role, or do you see a world where he kind of holds his spot and is a handy scorer?
Nah, he's too unreliable for me.
I feel like Ross Lyon hates him. Like he's always the whipping boy when something goes wrong type thing. So I wouldn't be counting on Hunter Clark, but owners will be happy with that score for sure. Now we're going to talk about Mitch Owen, so we'll block out half an hour here. 109 points. Is there anything new here, or was it just one of these good one-off good performances he does every 2-3 weeks?
I need to see more.
Yeah.
100% I need to see more.
There were times where he felt like he was up around the stoppages, and he wasn't rucking. Like Ron Marsh was still in there and he was like winning clearances and stuff. But I don't know if it seemed like there might have been something, but then he was still forward a fair bit in this game as well also. So let's just see another week and see
I
what
think
happens.
there's genuine potential for him to be a good player and scorer.
Yeah.
Because he's a unique height.
He's dynamic.
Yes.
Yeah.
But is it just too... Yeah, is it too fleeting at times? I'm not sure.
St Kilda need to decide what they want to do with him. They also need some key position players to actually play.
Yeah.
Because
so he's not stuck being that guy.
Yeah, exactly. So, if King was playing each week and they had someone else up forward, maybe they recruited another one or something, because they did lose Membry in the off-season and all that sort of stuff, and they lost battle down the other side, which has pushed, I always get them mixed up, is it Sharman or...
Sharman.
Yeah, in defence or whatever, so yeah. What's the other guy's name?
Mason Wood.
No, the Italian surname. What's his name?
Caminiti.
I can always get those two mixed up. But anyway, then on to Cooper Sharman. He scored 3 goals, so I assume he was playing forward. 85 points.
He's been really good
there.
This year.
Yeah, he has. And then Joel Jeffrey onto the Gold Coast thing, on the side of things. 118 points. He puts up a good score every 3 weeks, but... He's averaging 77 now, though, so they're kind of propping him up a bit.
Yeah, the issue is I had him, I think, last year, and you just don't know when to play him.
Yeah, that's it.
There's no, reliability to the big scores. It's just and then you play him 1 week, he'll let you down. You don't play him the next week, he goes ham. So
I think there's a lot of people playing players that are like that, though. And if you're averaging 77...
Yeah, there's a lot of coin flips this year.
D5, you'd be happy, but you wouldn't want to have him much higher than that.
No.
Ben Ainsworth, probably a tip of the cap with his 2 goals. Nothing really new with his role there. Bodie Hewland was my streamer this week. Had him in the streamer article purely because, and you can kind of bank this most weeks, I think, the key defenders against St Kilda. And he's not really, I guess he's kind of the quasi key defender, but anyone who's good at taking marks in defence, contested marks especially, they seem to go really well against St Kilda. So just another one to think about as your streamers. All right, that's the round recap. Let's duck into the questions quickly. First one comes from Brad at Semaphore Park. Are we closing in on time to cut bait with Cam Rayner? So would you be cutting Cam Rayner?
I'm surprised that people are still sticking with Cam Rayner.
Yeah, so am I, actually. He's I thought this might be the year because he was like a pretty decent scorer last season, even without getting bulk midfield time. But the second Ashcroft coming into that midfield has just absolutely killed any chance of that.
Don't get me wrong, I think Cam Rayner's a great forward.
Yeah.
But he's just got no chance of being a
consistent player in fantasy.
No. He's 57 this year, like 65 max. Like he's a genuine forward, and you kick a couple goals one week, score right, won't kick him the next week. No.
The next question comes from Milne, your mate. You're in a league with him, aren't you?
I don't think so.
Oh, you aren't? Anyway.
Might be.
Yeah, I don't know. I just guys chat on Twitter a lot.
With a nice bloke.
With an eye for the future, for a very deep keeper, would you hold or trade the following? Liam Reedy, Campbell Chesser, Jai Menzies, or Joe Berry? Thanks, legends.
I think I said cut them all, but I don't know enough about Joe Berry, so you can talk to that. Jai Menzies, definitely not. Campbell Chesser, he's not even getting games at the moment for bloody West Coast, is he? Is he injured?
I think he's probably injured. Yeah, he's pretty featherweight, that guy.
If you're going to have to keep one, I think it might be Reedy. Like,
that was my opinion.
Sounds like one of Jackson or Darcy's going to leave Freo, so therefore all it takes is an injury, or they might want to play Reedy and Jackson or something together if Darcy leaves. So I think he's the one, and we always know rucks take a little bit longer to develop, and sometimes you just never know when a ruck's going to pop or become number one. So I think he'd be the one I'd be holding.
My thinking is, if the Jackson to Melbourne thing is true, if you choose to believe that, then they'll be rucking with Darcy as their number one ruck, who will guaranteed miss like 6 weeks at some stage throughout the season, which gives him a good chunk to prove himself, and he may just pop up and become a scorer. Whereas like Joe Berry will get games, but he won't be a good scorer, and the rest are kind of in and out players. So I'd go with Reedy as well. Major Van Bent wants to know, given 5 weeks of buys, what long-term injuries are worth a pickup for after? Is Caleb Windsor back, or is it just a big win? Let's have a look at the injury list. Like, it depends who people are actually dropping, though. That's the thing. Like, in keeper leagues, there aren't that many, but I don't know. Caleb Windsor, I reckon. Do you reckon that was just a big win? We've kind of discussed that as being.
I like
a good
Caleb Windsor. Like, I think he's definitely good enough to stick with.
Yeah. In terms of injuries, I've personally got Brent Daniels, who I'm waiting for to come back, who should be there.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone off the top of the head that you can think of. Should have researched this question before we got to it. But
should have.
We're at 9:30. We're recording at 9:30 this morning, so didn't have a lot of time.
Nat Fyfe is maybe one.
Yeah, he's only 1 week away.
Yeah.
But
one to look at. He'll definitely be on some waiver wires.
Yeah.
Jaeger's another one. Like, Freo are only kind of just going. He's potentially one if you're looking for guys who are going to come in and have an immediate impact.
Yeah. I'm trying to look at guys that are going to be back in like 4 5 weeks. Like, obviously McRae's out for the next few weeks, but I don't think people will be dropping him. Kane Farrell, if people have dropped him in drafts, he might
Jack
be.
Lukosius, your boy?
Yeah, but I don't think he's going to be fantasy relevant. I think he's just going to play key forward if he does come back as well. So, yeah, maybe a few players like that. There's not a lot. Like, in keeper leagues especially, like, no one really drops these players or anything. And then in draft, like, I don't know, like, it's very rare that someone of quality gets dropped anyway. So
Tressa is injured.
Yeah. I don't know.
Riley Garcia, maybe from the Dogs.
Okay. Left field. Haven't thought of that one. All right, and the last question comes from the Draft Bible. Thoughts on Leo Lombard? Due an AFL game soon, similar level to Langford. I think that's a good comparison. Like, I do have him on my list. He was one of the better... I don't know if he was one of the better fantasy scorers, but I think he played a bit of senior footy as a junior. Is he the one that played in the reserves grand final like a year ago as an underager?
So,
yeah, so like... While his numbers might not look as good as others, it's because he was playing reserves. So I think he is good enough to go. And there was a lot of talk of him playing round one before he did his shoulder, I think it was, and needed surgery on it. So, he's put a couple games back into the twos. I probably can get his numbers up here to see what he scored like in those 2 games here. But come on, why is his loading so slow? Here we go. Lombard, 59 and 79. And I think in the report, the Round the Grounds report on the AFL website, he got a bit of a rap last week in there as well. So I think he's close to coming in the side. It's just like, I just don't see how he scores. I think he just plays like a Jake Rogers role forward before he eventually becomes a midfielder.
Yeah, I think he's a long-term play.
Needs Rao to get traded. Flanders hopefully gets traded for the owners out there, but even though he's not in the midfield. But you need kind of like these fringe guys around that, and you need someone like probably... took Miller to just drop off or get injured or something before he's going to get a chance. So it's going to be 2 or 3 years before someone like Lombard, I think, is fantasy relevant. I've got him as keep 250, so I've got him stashed away to keep as one of those. There on my list, unless someone wants him in the trade, come at me. But yeah,
there you go. He's putting it out.
Anyways, that might do us for this week. So we'll wrap it up. Anything you want to plug, Kaes?
No.
You got some more front run episodes coming.
Front runners coming in a few weeks' time. Yeah,
so
in a couple of weeks, just having a few weeks off. I did say my gripe at the moment is when you go to the shops.
Okay.
You know how people do the online orders?
Yeah.
Are you an online order, or do you like to go?
I haven't been to the shop in months.
So I like to go to the shops.
Yeah.
It's just, easy.
Get out of the house.
Yeah. Take my kid, whatever. See pushing a pram or a trolley, and the people who are doing the online order packing, they're everywhere because everyone's doing online orders, and they're always in your fucking way.
They take up the room.
And they're just kind of dawdling around, yes, they're getting paid and they're taking their time, but I want to get in and out as well.
But are they the problem, or is it the people like me who are putting in the online orders?
Well, maybe it is you.
Yeah, I think we're the real problem.
So I'm happy to blame you. Yeah, it's probably not them. They're just trying to make a crust. But if you're there, just.
Or is it you for not online ordering?
No, I like to pick my own fresh fruit and vegetables, and
that is the worst part of it.
If there's
it's such
something
a gamble.
that is not in stock, I want to choose what I want instead. Not like some, I ordered peaches and you send me, guava or something like that. No. Anyway, so just if you're one of these packers, just please move towards the aisle.
I value the time. I'd rather have shit fruit and veg and the time I save from going to the shops than the alternative.
So you're the problem.
Yeah, I think I'm the problem. Anyways, that'll do us this week. Enough talk about fruit and veg. Get around Keep League Pod on all the socials. Make sure you're liking and subscribing. Please leave a review if you enjoy listening each week. And if you want to support the podcast, please sign up as a member to keep this thing going long as the future. Join our Discord server. I think that's it. There's a link to all of that in the description below. Thank you, Kaes, for coming on, giving up your time.
Pleasure.
Coming on for another week. Welcome back to the podcast, and we'll talk to you all soon.
See ya.